As we've already said, Brandon is currently a master's student at UT Austin, and earlier today presented at a linguistics conference. What is the organization again? It's Linguistics Association of the Southwest. Thank you, which BYU is hosting this year, and so he presented on his research at that conference, and then was kind enough to come down and return to BYU campus and then present on his field study experience and on what's happened in his life and the lives of many field studies alumni thanks to their experiences. Brandon was always a joy to have on staff at field studies. It was just always a breath of fresh air to have him. He came into field studies. Well, I guess he'll go into his own story, but I think that you'll find if you talk to him that he never expected to do research, never expected to do the kinds of things that he did on a field study, and he hit the field study with running, and then came home and just ran with it, just kept running, and so we're glad to have Brandon back. I'll just let him do any further introduction that he'd like to do. But Brandon, welcome back to BYU. Thank you for coming.
All right. Thank you very much to everyone for coming. The real purpose behind my talk today is by shedding light on some things that I participated in while here at BYU while pursuing my undergraduate, and things that other students have done, is more of to give advice to other students and how the things that we have done could possibly help you in what you want to do in life. I never remember how this thing works.
I don't think it's synced. You may have to actually use it on the computer. Sorry about that.
Okay. So basically, I'll start out real quick. Something I want to talk about, the key to it here, obviously the first title was meant to grab your attention. I don't know if it did that or not. But the second one is more important, is basically how the right BYU education can help you to get ahead of the curve or ahead of the game, or however you want to put it, in graduate school. How you can understand what you want to do before it actually is that you go out and do it. So basically, my outline for this, I'm going to talk about several specific things. The first one being the mission of Brigham Young University and how it is that you have a great opportunity here to be students here at this wonderful university, and how in doing that you have an obligation for planning for your future. And when I'm talking about that, I would like to talk about how you can take advantage of the vast opportunities that are here at BYU to help you out in whatever way you want to go. I'll share a little bit about myself and that. I'll talk about other students like me and how this has helped us in graduate school. I have long arms for a reason. This is good. So I want to take a little second and start out with the mission of Brigham Young University and highlight two main points from it. The first one here says that students who graduate from BYU should be capable of competing with the best in their fields, meaning that we should be able to, at BYU, prepare you to be able to, obviously, succeed. The second one is scholarly research and creative endeavor among both faculty and students are essential and will be encouraged. This is something that, if any of you have ever thought of something like graduate school or medical school or law school, you know what, there's going to be a little bit of research involved in that, so this might be good for you too. Obviously, BYU is a great institute for this. It is nationally known for the way it prepares its undergraduates. We look at the rankings from last year. Number 10 in students who go on to get their PhDs within the last decade. Number 1 in students who get into dental school. Number 6 in students who are going to get into law school. And number 10 of those students who go on to medical school. So they're obviously doing something right here at BYU. I'd like to talk about that a little bit. But as we do this, like I said, really what made my undergraduate experience better for me is that I knew what I wanted to do, and I went for it. I knew that I needed to make certain things happen. And so basically, one of the first things you need to do is you need to basically explore within yourself and say, what is it that I really want to do? with my time here at BYU? How do I want to prepare myself to be better ready to go on and do whatever it may be after I graduate BYU? So whether it's grad school or law school or med school or something else, if there's a specific field that you want to work in as soon as you graduate, my whole point of my talk today is you need to start now. And BYU has the opportunities for you to start and to move towards those things. Some of the things that we have available, this is just a short list. We have academic opportunities that are outside of the classroom. Volunteer and service, you can do things that are related to the field, whatever it is that you want to be. For example, I was a volunteer tutor to a woman who was from Mexico and was learning how to read and write in her own language. I did that while I was here at BYU. I think that was a great experience for me. There are research assistantships. There's a lot of professors out there that are doing great research or looking for students to help them on that. There's many internships that you can do. There's a wonderful supportive faculty here at BYU that's really willing to help, and one of the main things I want to talk about is mentored research. But with all this, what I want to talk about mainly is the key there at the bottom, that if you really want to make yourself stand out and prepare yourself, you need to do something besides just coursework here at BYU. If you do just coursework and that's it, and there's nothing else that you really do with your time spent here at BYU, you're going to look like a lot of other students who didn't really prepare themselves. So one of the great programs that we have here at BYU, I've visited several other universities, and even at the University of Texas, we do not have something like this. This is something really great. The ORCA grants, which is the Office of Research and Creative Activities. Basically, they exist to encourage mentored research at the undergraduate level for all fields of study at the university. The ORCA grant, basically how it works is they give a total of $1,800. $1,500 of it goes to you so that you can work on your research, whatever it may be. Another $300 goes to your professor. My stats, I apologize, they are a little older. That's from the 2005-2006 academic year. I got kind of busy and wasn't able to find any more recent ones, but I've been told that they were similar to this as well. The ORCA grant is something that other universities don't have. When I arrived today, and I got a packet, because whenever you go to a conference, they give you a packet, and sometimes it'll say little stuff about the university. There was a little thing in there to talk about undergraduate research, talked about ORCA grants, and this obviously, I've said it 3 times now, but I think it's so important that this doesn't happen at other universities. You have a great opportunity to do this. Obviously, if you have more questions about that, I didn't go into much detail. There was the website down at the bottom about it. Obviously, since we're here in the Kennedy Center, I'm going to focus in on this, which is international studies. We have several different types. We have our direct enrollments. We have our study abroads. We have our international internships, and field studies is something that I will specifically be talking about because obviously it's something I did. But BYU has a very nationally recognized study abroad program. We're 16th in the nation here because we put out people to everywhere. The Kennedy Center has in its history put students on every single continent. And when I say that, I always get some students who are like, oh, really? Did you have people in Antarctica? Yes, they've sent people to Antarctica before, so I don't get that question at the end. Basically, I want to talk about what is a field study. You see right here the description that comes across the field study. This is from the Kennedy website, the Kennedy Center website. A field study is an opportunity for you to do research abroad. Do research on whatever you want and have it directed towards whatever it is. Now, research may seem very, very daunting. It doesn't have to be research. It could be creative activities or something else like that. But there's different things that you can do abroad that can help, more than anything, help you gain and own this education that you're having. We have a saying in field studies that's called a learner-owned education because we really feel as the students go out there and they study what they want to study, that it means so much more to them. And I think that's one of the keys here in education, and I hope you find that with your time here at BYU, that you find something that you really, really love doing and love studying and head yourself in that direction. And if you have already, or if you're looking for, this would be a great opportunity to expound upon that on field studies. Like you say, like it says on there in the very bottom, that field studies are ideal for undergraduate research. One of the things we do here at the Kennedy Center is we have an inquiry conference. It's an annual event that takes place at the end of February, beginning of March. And it's an opportunity for the students who have done research. They don't necessarily have to be from field studies. They can be from international internships or different things like that. But they come together in a conference situation and they present. Here we can see a very bright student in this picture presenting at his research at the inquiry conference. This is a wonderful opportunity to make your research and what you've done, your creative activity, to make it legitimate, to make it count for something. Because a lot of people could say, oh, I worked on this and this and this. But you need to, in a way, say, look, I did this. I got this wonderful experience out of it. And so this is one of the outlets in which you can do that. Something else that the Kennedy Center does is called the Inquiry Journal, which is a yearly publication of some of the things that people have done. And it looks really good, obviously, as you can tell, on an application for law school or med school, grad school, whatever it is. If you've done something like this and you have an opportunity to publish, that's great. It doesn't happen to everyone. It's not the most important thing we're looking for here, but it is something very unique and very good. One of the other outlets, such as in Utah here, in the whole state, they've really started, within the past few years, they've started to grasp this idea of the importance and how different and outstanding undergraduate research is. So one of the things that they've started to do is the UCUR, which is obviously the Utah Conference on Undergraduate Research. It's another conference. It's held every February, March in a different university, and it's another opportunity for you to share what you learned. I can't stress the importance of what doing something like this would do to help you out in life, whether it is. It can help you learn if this is what you want to do. It can help you get feedback on whatever you're doing. There's so many things, wonderful things that you can learn from doing stuff like this. So, going on a little bit, I would like to talk a little bit about my personal story that I had here. I graduated from BYU in 2008 with a bachelor's in Spanish and minor in linguistics. I participated in the field study that goes to Mexico. I did it 2 times. You can see me there in the kind of small kitchen door. And I'm currently in a combined master's and PhD program in Hispanic linguistics at the University of Texas. While I was there in Mexico, it was just, as Nephi mentioned, it was a really interesting experience because research had never crossed my mind. I served a mission in Mexico. I thought it was great. I loved Mexico. I saw this. I said, hey, I want to do something like that. I had a roommate who went on a study abroad to Spain, and I was kind of jealous. I said, well, I want to go do something like that, but I'd really like to go back to Mexico. So I go in there, and I go into the office the first day in back over there in the corner where they talk about to the students about all these programs, and I say to them, well, I want to go to Mexico, and they sit me down and they start talking to me about research, and I'm not going to lie, it really, really scared me. But after a while, I was like, okay, it'll be all right, and I do that, and as I got into it, I found out how much that I personally really, really enjoyed it. And I had people who went down with me who did completely different things than me. They did education things. They helped in the schools and different things like that went down with me and helped out. And it was a really, really great experience for them, too. The wonderful thing about field studies is it's not like a set-up class where everyone's studying the same thing. Like I said, you own what you're learning, so you study what you want. My study consisted in basically it was a historical and social point of view towards the use of indigenous languages among these people. And that's what I did there down in Mexico. So part of this that I talked about is mentored research. And this is what I feel was really, really key for me is I had the faculty support. I had my professor from the Department of Spanish and Portuguese was Dr. Orlando Alba. And my professor from the Department of Linguistics and English Language was Professor Cynthia Hallen. And the encouragement that these professors gave me was probably more important than anything else I got. Being able to do this and being able to receive guidance from them and seeing them excited when things were working well for me was huge for me. And so I invite you to, when you have an idea of what you want to do, look through the professors that we have here at BYU. find out professors that do similar things to what you want to do. They usually have their interests listed right there online, so you have this opportunity to work with them. As I did this, I really feel that it helped me fine-tune what I wanted to do. And it helped me to do several things, like I had the opportunity to present at the Inquiry Conference 3 years ago. A year ago, I was able to present my presentation, my research at the UCUR, which, once again, these are wonderful. If you have a conference presentation for the research that you've done and you put that on an application for something, that's great. That's something that the majority of undergraduate students don't have the opportunity to do. I was able, as you can see there, to publish different sections of my work a couple times as well. Some of the biggest things that happened for me, and I don't want to come across wrong when I say these, but I really feel that field studies helped me to do this out, was I received an award for what, and this is an award for the Spanish department that normally goes to graduate students, but I got it as an undergraduate. It blew me away, but once again, it's because of the field study that I did. Probably the highlight of my undergraduate was when I went to the 18th International, you see it up there, the Historical Conference on Historical Linguistics, which was up in the University of Montreal, and I didn't realize this till I was about halfway through it. But of the 23 people that were presenting there, I was the only one who didn't have a bachelor's yet, and everyone else pretty much had PhDs or were really close to getting their PhDs. I hope I don't come across wrong when I say this, but I want to emphasize that this is because of field studies that I had this opportunity to do this. This is because I decided to do something outside of the classroom. And you can see that on there in the corner too, another publication coming. But when I say these things, this isn't just me that these things happen to. So many students have experienced these wonderful things because they decided to take their learning outside of the classroom, decided to do something with it. We see here that field studies, I believe this is within the past 5 years, have had over 40 publications. A lot of these do come from the Inquiry Inquiry Journal, and other undergraduate journals here at BYU, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's still a publication that shows up on your application, looks great. We've had over 200 conference presentations. Once again, I do recognize that a lot of them are from the Inquiry Conference, but we've had a lot from other places as well. We've had people go all over the country and present different things. We've had 3 Fulbright recipients within the past 5 years, or I think it's a little longer than that, sorry, I'm not 100% sure on those stats. And we also had a National Science Foundation grant recipient, people who did field studies and were able to get these things because of what they did. If we look at our statistics from the 2006-2007 school year of those who participated in field study, now we recognize that we don't have all the data on all the students that went. We've gathered about 60% of it, but as of that, the 60%, we find that 20 students have gone on to graduate school who went to do their field study. 11 students have gone on to either law or medical or dental schools. 14 students went straight to working into the field that they wanted to, that they decided, said, I want to work in this field, so I'm going to prepare myself while I'm here at BYU so I can do that. And we had 3 students who went to the Teach for America. We've had a few students who went on missions and haven't graduated yet, so that's why they're not part of these statistics as of yet. But as we can see here, field studies is a wonderful opportunity for you to do something great with your undergraduate time here at BYU. I want to talk about a couple of specific students here. This is Colin Smith. He went to South Africa. I believe he was an English major. And basically what his research was, he talked to people. He found out what their stories were, what their myths they had in their culture. He specifically focused on heroes in their culture. And he basically talked to people and wrote down their stories. And from what he did, he was able to present at 2 different conferences. He got 2 publications, including this one right here, which was basically an award of undergraduate research that is throughout the entire nation. And he was able to receive that for the work he did, going and doing what he wanted to do, talking to people and learning stories from them. Another one I want to talk about is Jared Wilkerson. Jared Wilkerson participated in the Mexico field study. He actually went down 3 times. He received 2 Orca grants for stuff that he was working on. He had 3 separate conference presentations on his work, and he had 3 publications, including this most recent one that came out in Healthcare for Women International. And what I think is, because I know Jared pretty well, and what I think is probably the coolest thing that ever happened to him was that in the LA Times, they actually talked about his research and did a whole article about it. I thought that was great for him. And we see here my screenshot of the LA Times with Sears and Facebook on it. So I want to return a little bit to me now that we've done this. How does this help us with graduate school or whatever it is that we want? How is this going to help us what we've done? For me, I was fortunate enough to get into the graduate school that I wanted to do. My research is focused has shifted focus a little bit, and it's really on Mayan languages now, linguistics in Mayan languages. And luckily, I've been able to go to the University of Texas, which has one of the top Mayan linguistics programs in the country. So that was a real blessing for me, and I was able to start on my research before I even got there because I had this training. Sooner or later, everyone who's going to go to graduate school is going to need to learn how to do research. And the blessing among field study students is they get a jump start on it. They get to start it as the undergraduate. I'm not saying they're going to be perfect, and there's going to be little mistakes and learning points along the way, and I still have them all the time. But when you compare yourself to someone who starts 3 years later in their second or third year of graduate school, you can see a monumental difference. I don't know if monumental is the right word, a big difference. Other thing I was able to do was able to get funding. I knew how to write a grant. I knew how to apply for a grant and write up a proposal for it. So I was able to get funding, and I've been able to spend a couple weeks down in Guatemala during this year, 2 different times in January and again in May. And I feel like it really helped me get a start on my thesis to what I was doing. I feel very comfortable with my thesis because I had this start, and I basically knew how to do it because I learned to do it as a BYU undergraduate student. This is basically a look at different parts of my thesis that I'm working on right now, and I will be presenting at different conferences this year. You see the top one is the one that I presented earlier this morning. So, as we look at this, I've talked a lot about myself, unfortunately. I apologize for that. But let's talk about what other field study students have said. We want to talk about regarding admissions into graduate work. We have a field study alum in grad school. He said, "Field studies provided me with the opportunity to conduct meaningful research with a faculty advisor that allowed me to get into NYU's political science PhD program. If I had not conducted this research, I would have not had such valuable experience. When I visited NYU, the graduate school director commented to me that, sorry, I can't read today. You're the one that did, okay, we're going to start over. You're the one that did research in South Africa. Without the training and facilitation of the field study programs and the invaluable guidance of my faculty advisor, my chances of getting into NYU would have been lower." Basically, they saw who he was. They saw in his application, like, oh, look, this guy went and did research. That's abnormal for an undergraduate to do. Let's talk to him more about it. And as they talked to him more about it, they found out that they liked that. And apparently they liked him, so they took him. I want to talk about, here's another one from a field studies alum who's now I believe she's actually completed it now, but she was in an MPA program. She says, "My experience in Ghana set me apart from other applicants in my MPA program. My field study was the single most experience in shaping my career path into the nonprofit sector." Basically, she knew what she wanted to do, so she went to the field study, and she kind of trained herself to go that way. She went in that direction. Here we have one who's in law school, and he said the following: "When I got to law school, I first learned that my LSAT score was 1 point below the median score for my class, and that my undergraduate GPA was simply average. Despite this, I'm one of the few students here to be receiving a full in-state tuition scholarship. The thing that I believe really set me apart from all my fellow high-achieving students was my field study experience in rural Romania. Everyone at the University of Minnesota Law School has good grades and test scores, but few have done something as crazy and outstanding as a field study. I don't know why his was crazy, but apparently it was. Here's something that comes up a lot, and we'll see at the bottom of this one when we talk about this. Is a field study alum who is in medical school now. And he said the following. He said, I can clearly see the value of my experience in Ghana in my admissions in school. Many people will do token service trips or study abroad experiences, all of which are better than never stepping off campus. But the combination of research and a diverse education in a diverse educational setting was well worth the time, money, and effort I put into applying and preparing for the field study. In addition, I can't stress enough the legitimacy that presenting at the inquiry conference or other publications presentations gave to my research. It definitely helped me stand out. Having been involved in the decision-making process of medical school admissions, simply serving a mission is not unique, especially with all the applicants we get from BYU, or BYU applicants received, sorry. It meant the same thing. So, that's great. It helped these people. These people had success in what they were doing. They got into their programs, and they feel that this experience, the field study experience, helped them out with what they were doing. They felt that because they left and did something besides just coursework while at BYU, it helped them. There's something else that I want to talk about and I want to focus on more than this. Because, you know what, I'll be honest with you, not every field study student gets to present at a conference, not every field study student gets their work published. But what I feel the most important thing about this is what you learn. It could be what you learn about yourself, it could be the skills you pick up and different things like that. What I want to focus on right now is the things that these people, that these field studies students have learned and how that has helped them in graduate school, things that their fellow graduate students are just barely learning in their second and third year. This right here is an email I got a few weeks ago. It's a department email to everyone in the Spanish department, the University of Texas. It said the following: Hi, linguistics students. Hope you're all doing well. This is a note for the PhD students, but it applies to the MA students as well. Professor so-and-so has kindly offered to conduct workshops to teach us how to do things like research proposal writing, abstract writing, grant writing, IRB proposals, etc. Many of you have felt the need for these before. Now, this is an email going out to graduate students. A lot of them, as it says here, they were specifically to PhD students. And they're expressing this need, like, we don't know how to do these things. We don't know how to write abstracts and different things like that. We need you to train it. Because I'll tell you right now, with my experience in graduate courses, there's not going to be a course that sits down and teaches you how to research, teaches you how to write an abstract. It's something that you're going to need to learn on your own if you're doing different things like this. And I found this quite interesting because most of the things right here, although they were hard for me to learn, I learned them here at BYU as an undergraduate. I had an interesting experience. It was, I believe it was last April. I was sitting in a class, and for some reason, one of the professors there at the University of Texas decided to talk to us about conferences and the importance of going and presenting in a conference and not just spending all your time doing coursework. And she was talking to graduate students at this time. And she said, how many of you have gone and presented at a conference? And I raised my hand, and I turned around and looked, and no one else had raised their hand, and these were all PhD students. And this is something very, very common in a lot of universities here, is these people, they don't prepare them as undergraduates to do research like this, to do something like this that will help them stand out. This is why BYU has such a wonderful opportunity, and a lot of students should really take advantage of the stuff that's going on here. And basically, going off of this, of the skills learned, we're going to go into a little bit of basically what others have said about how that has helped them succeed, have success in graduate school. Here's someone who's in a combined program, law school and a MPP. He said, without the research and writing experience I gained in field studies, law school and graduate school would have been an overwhelming struggle. As it is, many of these principles of investigation and presentation that my classmates find novel and challenging have become instinctual for me. I passed through the novel and challenging phase long ago while I was at the Kennedy Center. Obviously, we're not claiming here that field study students are geniuses and they obviously know how to do everything. We all have to pass through these times where we have to learn how to do these things. But what a great opportunity to get a head start on that. We look here at another student, and this is what she had to say about her field studies experience. She said, my field studies experience gave me a chance to be fully engaged in the research process, which then helped me contribute in significant ways to class discussions and better understand the material covered. My research work as a graduate student was better because of my field studies research experience. Once again, someone who felt like they were more prepared because of stuff that they had done before. Here's another one we have that I find quite interesting. It says, the South Africa field study helped set me apart from other grad school applicants by providing me with real-world experience. It also taught me how to be self-directed in my studies, which has helped me succeed in graduate school so far. Most importantly, the field study program provided me with the experience I need to be able to reflect on the theory of international economic development as it is currently taught in the graduate school. So basically, he feels like he was more prepared because of this. Because he was able to participate in this theory that they're talking about. He felt like he had experience. I think that's really important when he says that he had real-world experience when he came along to graduate school. Here's one here, but for sake of time, we're going to skip that one. Here's another one. I guess we can read this one, sorry. I think I gathered too many quotes for you. This one he got his Master's of Education from Columbia in New York City. He said, the utility of the field studies experience is that you learn how to quickly and successfully navigate yourself in an unfamiliar environment. The acquisition of this skill proved spectacularly useful when I was earning my master's at Teaching College, Columbia University in New York City. I participated in a dual certification program for elementary education and students with disabilities. This program required me to teach and work with the faculty in various schools throughout the city. Schools that differ geographically, culturally, structurally, socioeconomically, and philosophically. Field studies helped provide me the skill set to do all that. Something very interesting I believe he talks about is cultures, different cultures. As you go on an international program, you will have the opportunity there to obviously be with other cultures and understand other people's ways of life. In our world that is becoming ever more and more culturally mixed because so many things are happening and there's just people going and doing things in different countries all the time, this is something that's really important, a skill that is invaluable to people who want to be on the job force. If they've done something internationally, it looks very good. And you can tell that he felt that he was able to mix and mingle with these different cultures because he'd done it before. He had this experience, not just serving the mission, but actually living with a host family in a different country. In this case, it was Mexico. And he felt that because he did that, because he was actually able to live with the family and go and do different situations, it helped him. It helped him to keep his eyes open and to be able to understand different situations. This is something that I find very interesting for those of you who are interested in research, what this field studies alum said. He said, I attribute my success as a graduate student primarily to my successes and failures as a field studies student. In the year following my first field study, I was approached by 2 different faculty members to work with them. As a graduate student, I have been offered opportunities to participate with faculty in their research. Where most students are expected to function as merely research assistants, I was granted the opportunity to not only participate but also collaborate with the professor in defining both content as well as theoretical and methodological approach to the study, a privilege I don't expect to have received without my prior field research experience. In other words, I am now being paid to do research that is directly linked to my own interests and thesis work. When I talk about this, I hope it's not all just thrown in your face there. I hope I get my main point across here. I talk about field studies and how I feel personally. I feel that I have the conviction that they're really great and they can help you out do a lot of things. But the main purpose I want to get across here is that if you really want to do something postgraduate or something like that, you need to find something that you like to do. You need to do something out of the class, out of your coursework, whether it be an internship or whatever it is. Now, I understand that field study is not for every student, but at the same time, I feel that there are valuable lessons and skills and other things learned in so many opportunities for our students. It's great to be a member of a club here at BYU. I was a member of 3 clubs myself, but I don't think, in my personal opinion, that jumps out on an application for whatever it may be, a grad school or a job or anything like that, because a lot of people are members of clubs. I'm not trying to diss the members of clubs or anything like that, but it can't be just that. That sounded weird, sorry. It needs to be something. You need to do something that really shows your interest and really shows your capability and potential. And you know what? You're going to have failures along the way. That's perfectly normal. It's perfectly normal to be scared of them. Like I said, when I first walked into the field study office and they sat me down and started talking to me about research, I think I walked away, and for like the next week or so, I was like, well, I don't think I want to do that, because it was just something out there for me that I'd never thought about. And like I said, I had plenty of failures along the way. And I know several of the students that gave these quotes, and they did too. But it's just the experience gained that's really helped them to be prepared in whatever way it is to set them apart. So basically, as I said earlier, BYU is a wonderful place for this to happen. It provides you with opportunities that other universities do not provide you with at the undergraduate level. So basically, you need to start taking advantage of these things now. And as I say there on the last one, although you will have support from those around you, it's really up to you. No one's going to hold your hand along the way as you go and do these things. And I'll finish with that. Thank you very much.
I'm trying to figure out if one of those clubs he was part of was the tall club, because this is really, really tall. We have just a few minutes for about 8 minutes for questions that you may have. We're recording this, and so please wait as you ask your questions for the microphone to come around. We'll be just turning that on. So give us just a second before you ask your questions. Make sure you have the mic before you speak. Thanks.
Okay.
Brandon, you did a great job. But my question is, you talked about that there'll be successes and failures along the way. And I think it's important for people to understand that that's a typical experience with the field studies process. What kind of failures were you making reference to, and how do you overcome that? How did you overcome that to keep going to get where you are today?
Failures. The first one that comes to my head is I sent articles into journals and they said, no, we're not going to publish this. And you're like, oh. And then obviously it's not the most ideal situation, but how do you overcome it? In my situation, I unfortunately have like a 10-minute groping period where I'm like, oh, what am I doing? But after I get over that, it's really like, okay, what can I learn from this? Really, with a lot of the things where it's happened, where I've had not been accepted at a conference or not had a paper accepted for publication or something like that. And although I had some stuff on there where that did happen, there were a lot of times when that happened to me where something was rejected. And it's just basically, okay, what do I need to learn from this and how can I make it better? Within the research process, which I don't know if that's exactly what you're talking about, is obviously they're finding a fault in this. Why didn't I find that fault in it, and how can I improve it and hopefully never make that mistake again?
Thank you for the presentation. I have two questions. First of all, how does the honors program here at BYU and the thesis requirement fit into that, or how can you possibly combine that? And second of all, you've really convinced me. I really want to do this field study, get published, but where do I start? I still have 2 years left as an undergrad. How do I get involved with professors, find out about research they're doing, things like that?
First question, we have had several students do their honors theses, on field studies. So that does work well together. You could do that. If you wanted more information on that, I would talk to basically the honors office, and there will be people here afterwards who can talk to you more at that. Basically, I'm going to say yes, it's very possible to do that. The second question, it was my second semester here at BYU when I went into the field studies office and said, I want to do this. This sounds fun. So, anytime you start is fine. How do you get started? What is it that you like to do? For me, I remember taking my first class in linguistics, and I thought it was kind of weird, but I kind of enjoyed doing the homework. I was like, oh, that's cool. And I would actually do the homework and then do then some to make sure I understood it. And that's never happened in a biology class for me, but basically find something you like, whatever it is you like. Start taking those classes. And if you see professors that teach those classes, start taking more than one class from that same professor or whatever it may be so that you can get to know them. Go to their office hours or whatever it is to start. If you want to go, and we have great people here at Field Studies that can help you plan and do things and set it up so you can go when you want to go. We don't, in Field Studies, I don't know, I forgot to mention this, but we don't just send students out and say, okay, go do it. But we actually have a class where we prepare them to do these things. And it helps you, it walks you through the research things that's help that you're probably not going to get anywhere else, because I feel that field study research is so different, because when you write your proposal, I remember one of my fellow students said when I was in the prep class, they said, oh, this is like a normal research paper that I'd write for a class. You write your proposal, but then you actually get to go out and do something in it. So basically look for those professors, talk to people at Field Studies, and they have tons of ways that they can help you with. But I would start by taking those classes and really focusing on what it is that you like to do and seeing if there are professors that like to do the same thing as well.
Obviously, it'll depend on where you go and how long you're there, but ballpark, how much does like a field study cost?
Oh, I don't. It like you said, depends on where you go. I guess I can just give you the answer from when I went to Mexico. I don't know if that would be all right for you, because I really don't know what else everyone was. I spent 3 months in Mexico the first time. Second time was three. Well, not as long, but they're both around the same cost. If you take out airline tickets, it was less than living in Provo. I'm not going to lie, they're looking at it that way. They're the cheapest programs. Your biggest hit's going to be your airline ticket, but besides that, you're living like the people live there. I lived with a host family, and I helped them buy food, and I worked in the field with them so that they had food and whatnot. But I want to say for my 3 months there, it was less than $1,300 or $1,400.
And is it pretty possible to go wherever you want to go, or is there only like certain areas of the world where you can go, or do you pretty much get to choose?
We send students out in groups to certain areas. We do have individuals who go out to wherever they want to go. If they have a good research project that says, I want to do this in wherever it may be, I want to study, surfers in Hawaii or whatever, probably not the best project, but if they wanted to do that, and obviously if they're going to let students go there at the university, obviously there's going to be something with the countries that are having problems. They're not going to let students go there. But yes, if you feel like you'd be fine going as an individual and doing your research there, yes, the door's open for pretty much anywhere you want to go with some restrictions.
We have time for 2 more questions.
Thank you again. First off, I'm in the engineering program, and so I was wondering what opportunities field studies has for people majoring in the natural sciences.
What are your what would your interest be in engineering?
Personally, I'm in computer engineering. Very specifically, I'm quite interested in signal processing, anything to do with sound and manipulating it.
Okay. Well, you'd probably end up going, first of all, to a more developed country if you wanted to do something like that. Probably not where I was in Mexico. But, I mean, there's different things you can do along the road, different research. I have a friend who's in medical school who went on a field study, and he said to me, I guess I didn't really realize before the field study that medical research can be done outside of the laboratory. And there's a lot of different things. When you're doing stuff like this, for example, and you're talking about engineering and you want to see how things work, maybe, I don't know, it's almost my personal opinion that when we go and do things like this and make big projects, we need to know how it affects the people and if they like it or if they don't like it. And I think that's going to help you develop more what you want to do in engineering or whatever it may be. Is like, is this going to be of good benefit to them? And even if it is of good benefit to them, are they actually going to like it? Is it going to fall within their culture and different things like that? Because it could be something great for them that could help them a lot that just goes totally against their culture, so they're going to reject it. So I think wherever you go, you almost need to have that human experience in it, because the things we're doing, I assume the majority, there are probably some that aren't, that are to help people out and different things like that. And we need to realize, we need to take a step back into that person's shoes and be like, how would they view what I'm doing? Would they like it? Would they not like it? Why or why not?
Thank you.
Just one more.
Thanks, Brandon. I was wondering if you could explain a little bit about the differences you've seen in the approach to research between your undergraduate and your graduate work in terms of how the relationship is with the faculty, what kind of expectations there are, preparation, that kind of thing, what to expect someone who's going into a graduate research program.
I'd like to say that I'm better at doing it now. I guess that might be debatable, but I feel that in my own view, because of what I did there, I kind of just read around and kind of found out what to do. I feel like I'm a lot more focused now in what I need to do. I'm a lot more focused, and so when I was an undergraduate, I felt like I went into professors and it was like more of a, for example, what should I do sort of thing. And now I feel like I go into their office and say, this is what I want to do. What do you think of it? Is this going to work? And this is why I think it should work and whatever. Why wouldn't it work, and what do you think?